Something that I'd always been doing was writing poetry and doing these poetry slams and things of that nature. That just led to me being in an acting class. Honestly, because I didn't want to take the second semester of Spanish, so I figured like, yo, let me go ahead and take this acting class and see how it goes. And it kind of worked out. My name is Mahershala Ali, and this is the timeline of my career.
I used to be the new guy. Jermaine Sanders, call me Trey.
I'm Jordan Kavanaugh. You can call me whatever you want.
I booked Crossing Jordan, which was my first pilot, my first TV show, like 9 months out of school. So I almost didn't go on that audition. It was like my third audition of that day, and I didn't feel prepared. And I kind of went in and I just kind of winged it. And at that time, I wasn't very good at auditioning. I felt lucky that day and it worked out and they called me back. But getting to book that pilot, it was a pretty wonderful experience. Things were beginning to make sense and pay off for me in a way. Not without its complications, but very, very excited to have a job at that time.
That wasn't good enough for you. You had to cross the line. I'd put in for a transfer if I were you.
My first gig, I think I got fired because I talked too much. I had opinions about my character, and in all fairness, like I don't think they were expecting that. So in communicating those things and it feeling like at that time like it backfired, I think by the time I got around to the 4400, I was just really grateful to have what I felt like was a great character. I became hyper conscious of how I communicated things that I had any kind of issues with or things that I thought could be better in certain ways. But I did speak up, but I just made sure that it was things that really mattered. What I really, really appreciated about getting to play a character over, say, multiple seasons, it actually really reminded me of theater. Because in theater, you have to spend that type of time with a character for several months or a year in some cases, as however long a play might run. You're constantly getting to know it, even though you're doing the same play every night. What's great about television is you're still having that time with the character and you're getting to know him and things are continuing to open up and be revealed and you're being challenged. You gotta cross your fingers and hope for the best in terms of your arc. Richard Tyler, yeah, I love playing Richard and learned a lot along the way.
Yeah.
I've heard great things. Remy Danton.
You work with Claire?
In a way.
Hello, Remy.
Claire.
I see you've met Jillian.
Yes, just now.
She's doing fantastic work for us, as you can see.
David Fincher has a knowing of what he wants to accomplish. Because he's someone who can kind of do everybody's job a little bit better than them. But, he kind of has to, reel it in and just really kind of focus on directing. But I'll never forget, I was in this suit and we were trying to lock in the look of my character, Remy Danton. And he literally starts marking up my suit and all right, this button needs to be a 1/4 inch higher, this sleeve is this shoulder needs to be this is too square. And there was no tailor or wardrobe, stylist in the room. He started tweaking my suit and then had it communicated what he wanted done with the suit. The breadth and range of talents and how deep his vision is, it doesn't start and stop with how pretty the picture is. He sees the nuance, in a certain way, a little obsessive about it. And I respect it because you just see final product and the performances and you have to be in awe of that.
Interesting place to watch the show too.
It's more fun this way, hanging with the hoi polloi.
So what brings you to DC?
Oh, all the Congress in town. It's good wrestling work.
Since when do you hustle? You turn people away.
How'd you know I was in town?
It was I hadn't existed before House of Cards, and then once House of Cards happened, my experiences out in the world changed. Oh, Remy Danton! I was shocked at how much people responded to the show and going to DC and White House Correspondents' Dinner and having senators and congressmen and women coming up to us and being like, oh, it's a lot like that. We absolutely love the show. And I'd never been on something that like resonated in that way, like literally on the street, on some like, yo, I love the show, I love your character and whatnot. That character at that time, to play a lobbyist, to be a black man in DC who was empowered, what it really just does is it gives permission for there to be more of them. And they didn't exist in that way before. It gives Hollywood incentive, it gives other filmmakers permission to be like, yo, we're going to make stories that feature ourselves. It was unfortunate that there weren't versions of a Remy Danton I could audition for before that time. I'm grateful that that character, that type of character is present now.
Hey, let your head rest in my hand. Relax. I got you, I promise. I'm not gonna let you go. Hey, man, I got you. There you go. 10 seconds. That right there, you're in the middle of the world. That's good.
I think with Moonlight, it was so moving because I couldn't believe I just read that story. To read something that feels like characters you know and places that you come from or grew up in proximity to get that from an agent was like unbelievable to me, you know? And so to see what Barry did with Terrell, Alvin McCraney's work and how they, you know, assisted each other through the process of creating Moonlight, it was kind of jaw-dropping because it felt so easy. Those characters felt so known, they felt so close. It was a shock to have something so well written that was already on the page. And I'm grateful for having had the experience. I believed it was possible. I did. But I didn't, that wasn't my focus. My focus was to just do my best work and try to work with great people. I just believe it's bigger than me. I believe in a higher power, and I believe that if it's for you, you'll have it. You know, and if it's not for you, you're not gonna have it. I just pray to do my best work, and I believe I can be guided to my excellence through my prayers and actions.
Saw your mom last night.
I hate her.
Yeah, I bet you do. I hated my mom too. I miss her like hell now, though. That's all I'm gonna say about that. You know what draws your eye when you look at that? A crown. You wanna know why? Because everybody wants to be the king.
Every character is a hero of their own story. I don't think any hero thinks of themselves as a villain. With Cottonmouth, what I really tried to work on doing was just really making him human. One thing I remember doing is one moment Cottonmouth could be throwing somebody off of a roof and he could shed a tear over it and be impacted because he felt some sort of closeness to that character, who he was at odds with at the moment. But I think in that way, I felt a responsibility to show Cottonmouth's humanity. And therefore, I think it makes it more difficult to dislike a character like that, even when he's doing terrible things, that you could somehow still root for a guy who's technically a bad guy. If you're playing a character that is crafted on the page in a way that feels very strong, you need to quickly find where he or she is weak and work to cover those weak places, but always know that your character is being like pulled down by those weak places. You gotta be fighting to like carry a certain type of strength. And I think in some ways that creates a tension. A lot of what we do and how we present ourselves is about protecting ourselves. If you have real understanding and a real consciousness about the things that makes your character whole and human, and the things that you want your character to share and also not share, somehow something comes alive that I don't have all the answers for, but something I think wakes up and then begins to feel like real friction and tension.
Mr. I'm Dr. Donald True.
Tony.
Yes. Please sit down.
Some place you got here. Are them horns real?
Elephant tusks, yes.
We spent several days kind of hanging out and going through the script, and I just loved and appreciated his attention to detail. Two very different characters, very different people. It's very clear on the page. And I think our mutual approaches to the work, I think it just made for good chemistry, you know, and gave me real permission to sort of finally like break open a bit and have a real space to shine and reflect. It was great working with him and just finding the energy, finding the chemistry, finding the moments. We were both really excited about it. Just as actors, like it felt very alive, like the whole experience.
There's some education in semantics you're giving me. Hey, let's skip the deposition and I can just take notes on your lecture. I brought my case file.
Thanks for coming in, Wayne. It's good to see you.
Alan.
How's the job?
Still there.
True Detective came to me, but the part in True Detective that I wanted, I had to pursue because I was originally offered the co-starring role, and I really, honestly, just connected to the Wayne Hayes character, Purple Haze. I really connected to that character, and I just thought he was pretty fascinating and really well written. I just wanted to play that character, so my grandma always said, all they can do is say no, so I asked, and it worked out. I shot Green Book first, and then again, had like a week before I started filming True Detective. It was a pretty tight window. I really just tried to understand and quickly understand like the differences between the eras. Like, what was I gonna do when I was like, I guess like 33? What was I gonna do when I was like 43? Then what was I gonna do when I was like 70? And I kind of had a sense of it, and I just trusted that once we started working and I really had the time to focus on it on the day, that I was gonna lock in and I was gonna discover it. But I just allowed it to be really, and I just focused on Green Book while I was trying to do Green Book because I didn't really have a choice.
Molecularly regenerated. Mapped to your DNA. Cameron Turner to the molecule.
Benjamin Cleary's script was really phenomenal. It really touched me. It was something that was clearly written from his heart, inspired by some very real experiences. But the dilemma itself, the premise, it just felt fresh and new and unlike anything that I had ever seen. And I was also up for the challenge and trying to figure out one actor playing two characters and how that was even gonna work. It made me really nervous, but I was also like really excited about it too. One of the things that Ben did a wonderful job of was making it very clear that these characters had different wants, different needs. They shared in having the same family, but one had weeks to live potentially, and then one was waiting for permission to live. The energies to me of each character were so clearly different that I felt like a different person when I was playing Jack in comparison to playing Cameron. Cameron had a different set of worries and concerns. And I think just being clear on some very simple and subtle differences, my physicality, being aware that one is managing an illness and the other one isn't. Like, what do those things do to the body, the mind? But a huge help in really crafting these characters was what they wanted and needed was clearly written out in a way that felt different from the other. I think in some ways I discovered the arts just as an option because of my father. I'll never forget, I found a card in 2014. I had this storage that was in Brooklyn for 14 years. I'd gotten married and my wife was like, who I knew in college, and she was like, yo, what happened to that storage that you had? And I was like, yeah, it's in Brooklyn still. She's like, what? That's crazy. You need to clean that thing out. So she made me go. She was like, yo, we're going to clean this storage out. And one of the things I found in there was this card that my father had written to my grandmother. And it was a postcard, and my father, his shirt is off, and he's making this like pose, and it's a beautiful, beautiful postcard. It was like a casting postcard. It's not a headshot, but it was like a body card. And I flipped it over, because I remember I had lost my copy of it and I took my grandmother's. And she wasn't paying attention to it. I had my grandmother's, and so I turned it over and I read it, and I remember it said, "Hey Ma, still trying to be that leading man." So finding that in like 2014, right around the time I was trying to get off a House of Cards, because I just wanted to do more, it was something that was really affirming. I was reminded that, oh, he had like these real deal, larger aspirations that I discovered 20 years after his death. And I'm not crazy for that. And it's not like he and I had talked about that. And me actually in that moment making choices so that I could have that very thing that he wrote about on a postcard. And this is my first one right here. I'm like, yeah, I feel like he would be proud. He's the only reason I've been able to do it, because he's what I saw. Knowing that he made certain choices that got him out to New York, that put him on stage and allowed him to travel the world. For me, 27 years after he passed away, to be a lead in the movie is a bit of a miracle and I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for it.